It's 94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. I'm Darryl Huckaby with Dee in the morning. I know we're always keeping you connected to what's happening in the community, and we're in a very important season, not winter or fall, but election season. And today joining us, we have John Erlingheuser, who is the Senior Director of Advocacy and Community Outreach for AARP. He's going to talk about some of the work that they're doing for voter education. Good morning, John. How are you today?
Great, Darryl. Great to be with you this morning.
Glad to have you with us and inform our listeners as to what they need to know as this ever so important election is beginning to happen.
No question, a very important election, and it's critical for the folks that I represent, those that are voters age 50 and older, who in 2022 made up 62% of the electorate. So it's an important group of people, and we do our work to make sure they know what they need to know about the election, about what issues are important, what the different things are going on about voting and changes in election law and stuff. So it's great to be with you to really get that word out there to the community.
Okay, so let's start with some of the things that everybody needs to know about that you're working on.
Well, I mean, we're working in particular with candidates running for office, mostly at the federal level, but about the issues that are important to folks. Like, 50 and older voters care about really a bunch of issues, but two of the main ones are caregiving and Social Security. So on caregiving, at some point in your life, you're going to be cared for, you're going to care for somebody else, or you're going to
Provided.
know somebody who's being cared for, right? I
Yeah.
mean, whether it's a spouse, a loved one, a parent, a grandparent, a child, you're going to be in a position to have to take care of somebody or know somebody who's going to need care. And we have in this country 48 million family caregivers that are unpaid, and they provide 600 billion with a B, $600 billion in unpaid care. So
Wow.
we're trying to get people to make sure they understand the importance of supporting those family caregivers with whatever way we can. So we're asking candidates running for Congress and Senate, what are you going to do to support the 48 million family caregivers in this country? Because as you know, and I know, if they're not providing that care, somebody's going to have to, and it's going to be all the rest of us.
Right.
Through taxes and other things. So we want to make sure the government's doing what they can do to
Mm-hmm.
incentivize those folks that are providing that care to do it. So that's one big issue. Another one's Social Security. Social Security is a lifeline for everybody. I know, my father, he retired. He was old. I'm 6 kids in my mother's family, and my father retired when I was in high school, and I got Social Security while he was in high school. So I know the importance of surviving,
Right.
on limited means and Social Security, because it kept me, out of poverty. And if we don't do something to make sure Social Security is solvent in 10 years, those that are on it are going to experience a 20% cut. And that ain't a lot of money to begin with. And when you cut
That will be
20%,
devastating. Yeah.
it's going to really hurt. So we want candidates to focus on that. So two big issues we're really educating both the public about, and we're talking to candidates saying, hey, our voters age 50 and older, they make up what this electorate is all about. And if you're not
Right.
listening to them, you're going to have problems. So it's important that we're doing that work.
Absolutely. And again, if you're just joining us, we're talking to John Erlingheuser. He's the Senior Director of Advocacy and Community Outreach for AARP. Now, today's an important day, John, here in Connecticut. Early voting begins today.
Yeah, Connecticut was one of only 4 states left that didn't have early voting. And, we worked in the legislature to get the early voting referendum on the ballot 2 years ago, overwhelmingly passed 60+% of the voter. Where in this country now do we have over 60% of people agree on anything?
Yeah.
Well, this was one of those things. And so finally, we're going to have our first experience with early voting in Connecticut starting today. People are going to be able to go to one site. In each town, it has to have a minimum of one site. Just about all have one, and they can vote, every day in that location. And it's mostly going to be like mostly going to be on, in that location up from 6 a.m. Excuse me, not 6 a.m. like on the regular election day, but they're going to have the ability to go even nights and weekends. So what we're saying to folks is find out from your local registrar of voters where your polling location is. Make sure that because it's not going to be your
It's not
typical
the
voting
same as
location.
the regular voting location. I've been
Absolutely not.
posting a list of that on my Facebook pages for everybody to be aware of that. And this
Yeah.
runs through November 3rd. So October 21st through November
Yeah.
3rd. Early
10
voting.
a.m. to 6 p.m. And then on October 29th and October 31st, for those that commute and other things, they're going to be able to do it from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So we made sure there's a variety of times for people to take advantage of it. All you need to do is the same as you would do voting in a polling locate, general polling location, but you're doing it in your one central location. And by the way, we have a website, aarp.org/CT votes, that has all the information, the deadlines,
Perfect.
the locations, everything people could find out right on that one site.
And lastly, and again, John from AARP, there's a referendum on the ballot this year here in Connecticut. No excuse absentee ballot.
Yeah, we passed the referendum to allow for in-person early voting that starts today, but we're trying to get one more advancement. Connecticut now is only one of 11 states that requires an excuse to vote by absentee ballot. And, it's that way because it's written into our state constitution. It's a crazy thing to have in the Constitution. So that's why in Connecticut, it's not as easy to change that rule. But if we have voters vote yes on that referendum, okay, either when they vote in person or when they vote absentee ballot today by having an excuse, or they go to the polls on the 5th, they have the choice to vote yes, which removes that prohibition. And all that does is let the legislature come in and set rules for no excuse absentee balloting. If they vote no, everything stays the way it is with regards to absentee balloting. But I got to tell you, a lot of people vote absentee ballot not realizing that they're not meeting the law because they don't meet one of the excuses, like being in the military or being in a nursing home or being sick themselves or being out of town. To vote absentee ballot on November 5th, you got to be out of town from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Otherwise, you're breaking the law. So, we want to take that prohibition out, just make it as easy as possible. We want to give voters every opportunity to vote. And that's why we work so hard on these issues.
Awesome. Well, we say knowledge is power. So knowing the information is the best. So, John, thanks for joining us again. Give us that website where people can get all the information.
Yeah, Darryl, it's great being with you. And that website is aarp.org/CT votes. And everything is on there that you need to know about the election.
Awesome. And again, we encourage everybody to go out, cast your ballot, let your voice be heard. Early voting begins today, runs through November 3rd. Election day is on November 5th. John Erlingheuser, AARP Senior Director of Advocacy and Community Outreach. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Darryl. Peace.
All right. Darryl Huckaby with DD in the morning on the Rhythm of the City, 94.3 WYBC.